As you know, we just attended our big annual yarn festival here in Vancouver called Knit City. And the biggest question of the entire weekend is, how was your show? Are you having a good show? So let me tell you my experience of the show. Hey there, I'm Felicia from SweetGeorgia, and this is Taking Back Friday. This is a moment in time where we pause and we catch up about all the things to do with knitting and spinning and weaving and dyeing. Today, I want to tell you about my experience at Knit City this past weekend. As you're probably aware, world events have shut down events like yarn festivals in the past couple of years. And so when all of those things happened, Knit City moved to a virtual format. And then after a while, last year, we had a mini show, and so we came to Knit City with our mini booth. So this year is the first year that it's been back to the full size that it is. There's a full floor plan of vendors. All the classes were back, lectures were back, evening events were back, everything was back, including the Knitters Lounge too. It was brilliant to be able to see our community and our customers again and be able to see everybody in person and just nerd out about yarn together. So my experience of the show is probably different from many other attendees. If you ask them about their experience of Knit City, their experience is going to be very different from mine. I'm speaking from the perspective of being a vendor. So as a vendor, we have been preparing for months and months for this show. The team has been dyeing yarn. They've been stocking all of the inventory in our lunchroom. It was all piling up in boxes in the lunchroom. And then on Friday, we rent a massive U-Haul to bring all of the inventory to the show. We set up quite early in order so that we can drive the truck into the show venue and then start arranging our booth and everything. So my team is absolutely amazing at it, and now they have it down to a science. So we've been doing this for many years, and so they've had lots of practice getting into this. But you know, they have a list of everything that needs to be checked off, that needs to go into the truck, in which order, so that way the shelves can come out first from the truck. And so some people are building the shelves while more stock is coming out of the truck, and then the shelves are being built as more stock is coming out, and then we can start to load the shelves. And we've been doing this for a while. So a huge thank you to the SweetGeorgia team for just being so awesome. Now this year was extra special because Teresa designed the new central display with the cubbies to hold our new color system colors. So we had these cubbies custom made, and then we can break them apart and then put them back into different kinds of configurations depending on what our booth needs are. So that will be really fun to play with. Now during the show, we floated back and forth between the booth and the knitting lounge. And so I was demonstrating on the Baby Wolf loom and showing how to weave a double weave blanket. I had actually already finished the cabin colorway blanket, the double weave blanket for the School of SweetGeorgia course that we're putting out soon. So that blanket was done, but I had sort of cut off the warp on the loom and left it there just in case. And then at the very last minute, Charlotte and Greta and we were looking at these new elixir colors that we'd created, and we're like, oh, these are so pretty. Maybe we could make a blanket. Maybe we could make a last minute blanket. And so I wound a warp very last minute and tied on all of the ends. It's almost 600 ends. So tied on all of the ends to the blanket, beamed the whole warp, got it ready, got it to the show, and then I came in early in the morning to slay the reed and set it up so that I could start weaving on this blanket. But this was really fun to do, to be able to have a loom there at the show to demonstrate how this all works, and just explain a little bit about four-shaft weaving to people who have never seen it before. This is 100% what happened to me when one year, I think I went to the Langley Weavers and Spinners Guild. They had an event, and I remember distinctly that there was a Baby Wolf loom in the aisle where everybody was walking, but it was positioned in the aisle so that way when you walked by, you could see the weaver demonstrating on the loom. And I remember being entranced by that loom and just kind of watching and seeing, what is this? How does this work? Can I do this? And so I very much want to give that kind of experience to someone else as well, coming through the show. Somebody who loves yarn, somebody who sees a loom is like, what's that? I want to do that. And that's who I want to be able to meet and talk to. I was very lucky that Saturday morning. It was actually quite busy. And so people were asking a lot of questions about weaving. So I happened to be at the Baby Wolf loom, and luckily Greta was also there with me. So Greta was demonstrating on the rigid Heda loom. And so between the two of us, we were just answering as many questions as we could about weaving, because people are very, very curious these days, which is great. Later on, Greta and Charlotte were also giving demonstrations with the fiber prep tool. So they were showing drum carding, they were showing blending board and how that all works and things. So lots and lots of interest from people who were interested in spinning. There's a couple of people who sat down at wheels and tried to spin for the very first time, so that was all super fun. Now, I am very proud to say that hopefully you can tell, ta-da! I did finish knitting the Novelli sweater on the machine. I knit all of the ribbing by hand. I talked about this in a previous episode about how Greta basically helped knit all of the color work at the bottom, and then we tag teamed. I took the rest of the sweater, hung it on my knitting machine, finished the two pieces, the front and the back piece, and then sewed them together. This is a 3 needle bind off up here. And then I hung the sweater on the machine and then knit the sleeves down as a rectangle, and then I hand sewed all of that back together. So I was sewing this sweater together on Friday night at home before the show. And it was great because then I was able to wear it on Saturday, and very, very proud of being able to finish that. But now that the machine is free and clear, I have so many more ideas about things that I want to make and work on. So more of that is going to be coming soon. So now we were quite busy chatting and talking at the booth and the lounge, and so I did not really get a chance to walk around Knit City until probably Sunday, late Sunday. But we're very lucky because a lot of people came to us and were chatting with us, and so that was great. One of the people was Ash Alberg from Sunflower Knit, and she is awesome. She came by and gave our entire team samples of this. This is the Knitter's Joint Salve. So I don't know if she knows that I was having weird issues with my hands and my wrists and my neck and all sorts of things like that, but this is supposed to help with that. So I don't know if she just read my mind or guessed or whatever, but that is very cool. So I'm going to see how this does, but I have to say it smells amazing. There is a mix of lavender, eucalyptus, rosemary, lemon, peppermint, and I think those are all the essential oils that are in here, but then there's also ingredients like arnica, white willow bark, St. John's wort, and comfrey root. All of those are meant to be a little bit anti-inflammatory, so that would help with reducing swelling and things like that. There's also calendula, which is supposed to help with muscle spasms, and then a couple of other ingredients like yarrow and thyme. So all of these things blended together are supposed to help with aches and pains. So I'm gonna give this a try and see how it does, but it smells amazing. So if you want to pick some up to try as well, you can go visit her website. It's ashalberg.com. And so she has a lot of information there. She's making a lot of things, doing a lot of things. You can see what she's up to there. The other thing that I did pick up is a couple of pom-poms. So Yarn Bowler was on the other side. They're next door neighbors to our booth, but they were on the other side of our booth. And so if you have never seen Yarn Bowler before, she basically has all of her products inside a bowler trailer, which is super adorable. I got to go inside the trailer and have a peek, but it's so, so cute. But she makes these cute faux fur pom-poms. So I got gifted one of these pom-poms a couple of years ago from Jana at Everly Textiles, and she gave them to me for Christmas. And so I managed to put it on a hat, which is currently at the studio as a sample right now. And so I wanted to make some more hats this winter. And so I went to Yarn Bowler to pick these up. So one has a snap on the back, so you can basically sew the snap onto the hat and then take the pom-pom off if needed. And then this one has a ribbon, so you can tie this pom-pom onto the top of your hat, and then when you need to, you can also untie it and remove it. So both of these options are neat because you can take the pom-poms off, wash your hat, and then put them back on, or you can just swap pom-poms, you can change colors, you can do all sorts of things like that. But these are super adorable. They are made by hand. They are lovely, and I'm just really excited to see what I can do with these, because I am absolutely determined to get the Fair Isle function working on my knitting machine. So if you want to check out the pom-poms, you can go to yarnbowler.com. She has tiny ones, she has big ones, she has colorful ones, she has neutral ones. There's a lot of stuff to pick from, so you can go visit her at yarnbowler.com. So I'll have to say that one of the highlights of the weekend was actually visiting the demonstration booth, and it was in the back corner of the show. I hope that if you guys went to the show that you also saw this, but there were 3 gals with their circular sock knitting machines there. So there was Karen Rammel from CSM Love, who I have spoken to before and I talked about on a video a couple months back. So Karen had explained to me how CSM knitting worked back in January when I was interested in acquiring a machine. And then I also met Susan Forsyth. And so Susan and her husband run a business called Wool Combs. So you can find them on woolcombs.com, but they make combing equipment for fiber preparation, fiber blending, making worsted prep and all this kind of stuff. But Susan also refurbishes antique circular sock knitting machines. So she had a machine with her that was like maybe over 100 years old, I think is what she said it was. Her machine was gorgeous, beautiful. And then I met another girl, Jen Hart. And so she had a machine that was the New Zealand auto knitter, NZAK, I think is what they call it. And so her machine, very sturdy. She let me play with it a little bit, and it's super quiet, whisper quiet. And then the way that her stand is for the circular sock knitting machine, it's basically on a tripod. So it's very, very sturdy. So when you're cranking, it doesn't feel wobbly or anything like that. It was very cool to see. So in just a few minutes of chatting with these girls, I learned so many things. From Susan, I learned about knitting socks with cotton and adding lycra and trying to find ways of casting on so that you get a ribbed edge but not a wavy edge. I learned about the idea of keeping your ribber on at all times, like the idea that you never have to remove the ribber from the CSM. That is kind of mind-blowing for me, so I have to figure out how to do that, how I would cast on, cast off without actually seeing the whole of the cylinder but keeping the ribber on the whole time. So this is something I need to learn. I went to the CSM booth 2 times actually. I went back on the second day, and as soon as I walked into the booth, it just so happens that Susan was giving out cotton yarn. So I have these 2 balls of cotton yarn that she acquired, that she's been using for hand dyeing and then also making socks out of them. So I'm going to give this a try. So cotton socks. I've never made cotton socks before, but she showed me pairs of socks that she's had for like 5+ years and they still are perfectly fine. Whereas I get store-bought cotton socks and they will get holes in them after a month. So I'm gonna give this a try. So finally, one of my absolute favorite highlights of this weekend is that Robin from the School of Sweet Georgia, she's one of our moderators in the School of Sweet Georgia, she came to visit Vancouver, and it was actually the very first time that we have met in person. Sounds crazy. We've been working together for almost 2 years now. But we've actually never met in person, so that was a real treat. So she came in from out of town, came into Vancouver for the show. She came in a couple of days early so that way we could all sort of hang out and meet and have lunch together and stuff like that. And so both Robin and Vicky, if you're in the School of Sweet Georgia, you'll see them in the forums and things like that. They're super warm and inviting in the forums and also in the Zoom meetups that we host on the school. So really excited about that. And as well, our whole team was really happy to also see one of our SOS members, Pearl. She came to visit us as well at the studio, and it's neat because we have not seen Pearl in a couple of years since when we did our fiber arts retreat at Whistler, and that was like years ago. And Pearl had come out for that, and now she's come out for Knit City, and so it was just really, really great to see her again. It just makes such a huge difference to be able to see people in real life, to have these conversations in real life, and even if it's people that I only see once a year at the show, I'm still always so happy to have seen them, to know that they're still there knitting, that they're still enjoying yarn, that they're still doing their thing. It's really, really just so comforting to know that everyone is still there, and it's great to see everybody again. So if you ask me, I had an amazing show. I was so proud to see my team in action. It was super nice to see people that I haven't seen for years before. It was nice to be able to meet new people who were curious about weaving and spinning. It was wonderful to have students of the school come and introduce themselves to me and just say hi, and that they were excited about all the things that they were learning. And it was great to be able to also learn a few new things myself from people who were really generous and warm and enthusiastic with their knowledge. So I had an amazing show. If you were there too, I hope you had a fantastic show as well. So that is basically it for today. I'm really interested to hear about how you approach a knitting show or a yarn show or yarn festival. When you walk in the doors, do you have projects in mind? Do you have yarn that you already want to buy? Or are you open to whatever happens to be at the show, looking for what's new? How do you approach a show when you go in? What are you looking for? I am very curious. So if you like this episode, please do hit the like button. And if you would like to see more content like this where we talk about knitting and spinning and weaving and dyeing and things that you can make with yarn, please do hit subscribe. We come here every Friday to talk about something to do with the fiber arts. That's it for today. Thank you so much for being here, and I will see you in the next one. All right, bye for now.